morning, dear students. In this module, we'll be studying about the female reproductive system. Fine. Now, female reproductive system is located in the pelvis region only. It includes a pair of ovaries, a pair of oviduct, uterus, cervix, vagina, and external genitalia. Where the oviduct, uterus, and vagina are the accessory ducts. Fine. And we have a pair of the mammary gland that is basically for the nourishment of offsprings, and all parts are integrated structurally and functionally to support the processes of ovulation, fertilization, pregnancy, birth, and childcare. Now look at this sectional view through pelvis, students. You can see here, this is the uterus, fine, the urinary bladder. This will be more clear to you, fine. This is a sectional view of female reproductive system. So you can see here, students, this is the ovary, fine, 2 ovary. Then this is the fallopian tube, you can see here. Then this one is the uterus, which is also known as womb, fine. This is cervix, then vagina, fine. So all these things we'll be studying now. Now students, accessory ducts, talking about accessory ducts, that is oviduct, this uterus and vagina. So talking about oviduct, which is also known as fallopian tube, it is 10 to 12 centimeter in length. See student, this one is the fallopian tube. Look here very, very carefully. This is the fallopian tube, fine, which is also known as oviduct. Now which basically arises from periphery of each ovary to uterus. Now the part closer to the ovary, you can see here the part closer to the ovary, it's a funnel shaped, it's infundibulum. It is known as infundibulum, fine. And the edges of the infundibulum possess finger-like projection that is known as fimbriae, fine. So it basically possesses finger-like projection that is known as fimbriae. What is the function, students, of the fimbriae? It helps in collection of the ovum after ovulation. Fine. So this is the complete process here. Inside the ovary, ovulation takes place. Then one ovum is formed, the mature ovum. Fine. So it is collected by these fimbriae. Then it goes to the infundibulum. Fine. Now the infundibulum leads to a wider part of the oviduct, that is ampulla. See here, this one is ampulla, student. Fine. Look here, students, very, very carefully. This one was fimbriae, fine, then infundibulum, and this is ampulla now. And the last part of the oviduct is isthmus. Fine, this one is isthmus. Now it has a narrow lumen and it joined to the uterus. So you can see here, this one is uterus here, fine. That has been shown to you here. This one is the uterus. Okay, so this is infundibulum. Look here very carefully. This is fimbriae, fine, which receives this mature ovum after the ovulation, which takes place inside the ovary. Infundibulum, then ampulla, and the last one is isthmus. These are 3 parts of fallopian tube, or we can say the oviduct. I hope this thing is clear to each one of you students. See, this is the complete structure that we'll be going to study later on, although, but just to give you knowledge, fine. So there are lot of like germ cell is present, and there are lot of primary follicles, fine. So there are a lot of primary follicles that is present inside our ovary, students, which give rise to a secondary ovarian follicle after division. Then an oocyte is formed, then Graafian follicle, fine, then secondary oocyte. Then there will be a corpus luteum, fine, corpus luteum structures. So these are the structures that is forming inside the ovary only, and this is what the ovulation process is. So with the help of this ovulation process, what happens? A mature ovum is released from the ovary. Now students, talking about the uterus or womb, we can say, and vagina. So female body has a single uterus that is present in lower abdomen region, and it is also called womb. Fine, it is a hollow inverted pear kind of shape it is having. Take a inverted pear shape hota hai iska, that is attached to pelvic wall by ligament. And students, inside the uterus, fertilized ovum grows and develops into embryo. Fine, so the fusion of male and female gamete is said to be fertilization. Fine, look here, I am going to show you something. See, so this is the area, fine, from where the sperm enters inside the female body. It finally goes here. inside the into the fallopian tube. Fine. Where, so the fallopian tube mein kya hota hai? It is the site of fertilization. So this ovary releases the ovum which goes here into the fallopian tube, and finally the fusion of male and female gamete takes place. Now students, after fusion of male and female gamete, a structure is formed that is known as zygote. Fine. Then there will be an implantation, fine, of the we can say the blastocyst. Now this, what is this blastocyst? Now this is a structure, students, which is formed from the this zygote only. We'll be studying this later on. I'm just giving you extra knowledge. So this blastocyst, once attached, fine, so it forms embryo. Fine. This is the fetus, then finally give rise to a new baby. Fine. Now students, inside the uterus, fertilized ovum grows. Fine. That ovum grows and develops into embryo. Finally, it opens into vagina through a narrow cervix. Fine. And the cervical canal along with vagina, it is said to be birth canal. So this is the structure, student, that is known as birth canal. Fine. This one is the birth canal, the vagina. Now, the wall of the uterus has 3 layers of tissue. First one we have is perimetrium, students, then myometrium, and then endometrium. So the perimetrium is the external thin membrane. Myometrium is the middle thick layer. Fine. And where what happens, strong contraction takes place during delivery, because the baby has to come out, fine, from the mother, this body of the mother. So there happens a strong contraction which helps in the delivery. Last one we have is the endometrium, students, that is the inner glandular layer. Fine. And it goes under the cyclical changes during menstrual cycle. So PME, always remember, peri, myo and endo. Fine. So see, the first one we have is the peri, then myo, and then endo. So it is the only layer, endometrium, you might have studied, that which shed off, fine, and give when the egg is not fertilized, and this is basically released from the female body in the form of blood. Now talking about the external genitalia, students, it consists of mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen, and clitoris. These are the structures that is present inside the female body, and this is the external genitalia. Fine. Talking about mons pubis, it's a pad of fatty tissue that is covered with hairs. Fine. It is the external genitalia, students. I'm not talking about the internal structure. Now labia majora, it's a fleshy folds of tissue that surrounds the vaginal opening. Talking about labia minora, there are paired folds of tissue under labia majora. Fine. So under labia majora there are labia minora, which is paired folds. Talking about clitoris, it's a tiny finger structures, lies at the upper junctions of 2 labia majora. Fine. So 2 labia majora के बीच में जो junction होता है, that is clitoris. Last one we have is the hymen, just inside the opening of the vagina, often torn during the first coitus intercourse. Fine. That is hymen. So during the first intercourse, this hymen gets break. Although this may not be true, like if someone is actively participating in sports activity, horseback riding, cycling, so in some women the hymen persists even after coitus. Fine. So, and the presence or absence of hymen is not a reliable indicator of virginity. Talking about the mammary gland, students, you can see here I would like to show you the structure. Fine. See. Just see, look at the structure. You just have to look at the structure here. Fine. Look at the structure very carefully. So now these are the paired glandular tissue. Variable amount of fats present hota hai inme. Fine. And a functional mammary gland is characteristics of all female mammals. Fine. So the mammary gland are paired structure that is known as breast. Fine. That contains glandular tissue and variable amount of fat. Now students, the glandular tissue of each breast is divided into 15 to 20 this lobes. Fine. So you can see here, this is the fats. These are the lobes. Fine. These are the lobes, students. And these contains cluster of cells that is known as alveoli. So you can see here, these are the mammary alveolus. Fine. So yellow like structure you can see here is the alveolus. Then the cells of alveoli. Now what is the function of the cells of the alveoli, students? they secrete milk which is stored in the cavity of alveoli. तो जितना भी milk secrete करते हैं alveoli वो कहाँ पे stored हो जाता है? Cavity में. That is the lumen of the alveoli. Now students, the alveoli opens into mammary tubule. Fine. So you can see here, this opens into this tubule, and the tubule of each lobe join to form the mammary duct. So you can see here, this is the mammary duct. So a lot of mammary ducts you can see here. Fine. And several mammary ducts join to form a wider mammary ampulla. So this is the ampulla. See here, this one is the ampulla. So all the mammary ducts, they join together to form this ampulla. And now students, what happens? Which is connected to lactiferous duct. Fine. So this is connected to all these ampulla. They are connected to lactiferous duct. Fine. Through which milk is sucked out. Fine. So this is the nipple. Fine. From which the milk is sucked out. I'm going to repeat this thing for you students. It's very, very important. Fine. So you can see here the glandular tissue. It's divided into 15 to 20 lobes. I'm going to show you the full page over here. Fine. See here now students. Now then it contains a cluster of cells that is known as alveoli, which secrete, now these are the alveoli students. Fine. They secrete milk which is stored in the alveoli, or we can say lumen. And then alveoli opens into mammary tubule. Fine. Which further joins to form the mammary duct. Fine. Then many ducts join to form mammary ampulla. So you can see here, this one is, see student, this one is ampulla. Fine. Which is connected with this lactiferous duct. Fine. Through which the milk is sucked out. So this was all about the female reproductive system. Thank you everyone.